Under what circumstances can you draw your gun without it being considered brandishing? In this video, we're going to answer that question with noted criminal defense attorney Tom Grieve. He's also a former state prosecutor. But before we get started, let me let you know that we have a gun giveaway going on right now. It's free, but it ends really soon. Just click in the link down below in the description, and we'll let you know which brand new gun you will have a chance to win. Tom, we're talking about brandishing, and I know from some folks who I've met and talked to in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that even allowing your concealed firearm to be seen could be considered brandishing. And I also know from looking at our state laws page that there's not a lot of places who use a brandishing law, but when can you pull your gun and have it not be considered brandishing?
Well, look, first we have to understand, what are we talking about when we're talking about brandishing, right? Because accidentally displaying your firearm because your shirt lifted up when you were reaching for a product at the grocery store, right? We've got that on the one hand. On the other hand, we've got the guy who may or may not be intoxicated, who's pulling out his firearm and is kind of waving it around in the air and making threats or claims or something like that. Most states are going to have something somewhere in between, right? And even if it's not a brandishing law per se, in other words, you're not going to look up the state statute and find, oh, brandishing, here we are. There's typically something that will at least map to that kind of behavior. What am I talking about? Even though it may not be called brandishing, they'll arrest you for something else.
Yeah, I'm typically looking at, the catch-all, which is disorderly conduct, and I have to list the elements of the offense, in my report and things like that. And when you talked about the opposite ends of the spectrum as a law enforcement officer, the first one, I see the heel of a gun sticking out from a shirt. To me, that's not brandishing. Waving a gun around when you're drunk or threatening someone, to me, that's brandishing. Pulling a gun out to make a bad guy stop his bad behavior, that's self-defense. So that's kind of the way I see it, but obviously the law is much more nuanced.
Right.
Lots of different things can happen in there.
And where is it pointing? I mean, if you're pointing it at someone, oftentimes states like Wisconsin will have their own law for intentionally pointing at someone. A prosecutor, depending upon the circumstances, may also elect to charge that under a higher form of some sort of recklessly endangering safety, which oftentimes is not only a misdemeanor, but it could also be a felony. So there's criminal law and law in general often has a lot of very specific, here's what you did, and it fits round peg into round hole, square peg into square hole, and so forth. You can kind of play the toddler game of like, okay, well, this conduct neatly falls into this particular category, and I can put that here.
I don't know that you should be equating, legal concepts to the toddler game. I mean, it's your business.
Yeah, well, I've got kids, so
Okay.
it's perpetually what's on my mind. But there's always those catch-alls, as you mentioned. There's always kind of the nebulous, like, this is criminal, but, we need some catch-all statutes. So typically that's where your disorderly conducts may come in. That's where oftentimes resisting, when you're talking about interactions with law enforcement, come in. That's where you're talking about, you're endangering safety or recklessly endangering safety or negligently endangering safety, where, hey, we've got some sort of duty. There's some sort of bar or threshold of conduct that we all have in order to exist in society, where I can't take my car and crash it through the front of a grocery store and start driving up and down aisles. Even if I don't hit someone, that was probably, under most ordinary circumstances, was kind of a dangerous and dumb thing to do. So if we have a duty to not do dangerous and dumb things, or let's just stick with dangerous for our purposes right now, then if we violate that duty, if we transgress that duty by pointing firearms out and doing, regardless of whether or not they're loaded or not, you run into some of these laws that were designed to protect those duties, to protect those thresholds of what's out there. And that's likely what you're going to run into.
And I'm falling firmly on the side of keeping your gun in its holster until you can articulate that you reasonably fear that the threat is imminent. I mean, I'm not saying wait for someone to start shooting at you, but I'm also not saying pull your gun out and carry it down at the side of your hip, on the side of your thigh, walking around because somebody's giving you the stink eye across the street or something like that. There has to be that proper balance and your ability to be able to tell, if I'm talking to the prosecutor to explain, here's why I pulled my gun out. This is what I thought. this is, at the time, I reasonably believed that this was a danger, so I thought I needed to defend myself. Does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, I mean, there's basically a spectrum of action that a bad guy can be doing, and there's a spectrum of reaction that the good guy can be doing. And anytime you get ahead of where the bad guy is, the good guy can turn into a defendant, simply put. Yeah. So you've got to educate yourself on the laws. You have to train yourself so that your training can catch up to the situation, which we all know can move extremely quickly. You have to be able to read and react and identify what's going on, so that, God forbid, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, that you put yourself in the best position to make the best calls possible.
Yeah, and I really like what you said, the bad guy's action and our reaction. People need to understand that we are always reacting. As we're the good guys, we're defending ourselves, so we're just by definition a little bit behind, hopefully only a half a step, not 2 or 3 steps, but a half a step behind when we understand, we identify a threat or potential threat, and at that point we can react to it with an objectively reasonable amount of force. And if that means pulling your gun out, pointing it at someone and saying stop, then you have to be able to explain what you've done.
Right.
All righty. Once again, thank you very much, Tom, for your insight. Always very helpful for these videos. Folks, thank you for staying to the end of this video. And again, we've got that gun giveaway going on. All you need to do is go down in the description and click on that link. We'll let you know which brand new gun you will have the chance to win. I'm Kevin Michalowski, Director of Content for the U.S. Concealed Carry Association. And if you like videos like this, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell. We will let you know every time we come out with a new video. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.